everybody who is tuning in at home, we are celebrating our Fine Arts Festival. I believe it's the 13th annual Fine Arts Festival. So the art department and the alumni office have teamed up to celebrate 50 years of the visual arts program at Archmere Academy. So for everybody tuning in at home, obviously everyone on this call is familiar with me, but just to quickly introduce myself, my name's Ainsley Palladino. I graduated with the class of 2005. I always have to think about that for a second before I say it. And I've worked with the advancement team at Archmere for about 6 years now, doing alumni relations and annual giving. So like I said earlier, our purpose of this discussion today is mainly to celebrate 50 years of visual arts at Archmere, which is amazing. We're joined by some of our current and former art faculty, a few students on here who will be moderating the discussion, and then 3 of our very accomplished artists who will share their stories with us. So I'm just going to read off some brief bios to introduce the alumni artists, and then Stephanie will introduce our students and our faculty on the call. So we have Amanda Phelan from the class of 2006 on here. She is an accomplished creative director, designer, and textile engineer. Amanda attended the Rhode Island School of Design, where she studied painting before completing a degree in textiles. Her work has been noted for a high level of technical virtuosity and use of complex micro-architectural fabrics. In 2018, Phelan exhibited her first work at the Museum of Modern Arts as part of the Items is Fashion Modern exhibition, which featured 111 items of clothing that have had a strong impact on the world in the 20th and 21st centuries. Currently, she creative directs Grammy Award-winning musicians on image, worlds, and branding. And when she's not directing, Phelan is busy researching hybrid textile systems and new ecological material functions for design beyond the textile and apparel sectors. So thank you, Amanda, for joining us. Next, we have Monique Rollins from the class of 98. In 2006, Monique earned a Master of Fine Arts degree in painting, a Master of Science in Theory, Criticism, and History of Art degree, specializing in Venetian Renaissance, and a Museum Studies certification from the Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, New York. Monique's paintings have now been exhibited internationally for over a decade. Her portfolio consists of oil paintings, acrylic paintings, charcoal drawings, and paper collage paintings on canvas, incorporating a number of mediums, including pencil, acrylic, watercolor, and pen and ink. Each piece is a deeply felt visual component of her journeys and experiences. Thank you, Monique. And Monique is actually joining us from Italy. So thank you for joining. And then next we have Mark Smith from the class of 86. Mark also studied at the Pratt Institute in New York City. His artwork has been displayed in the US and abroad. His work embraces the classic skills of drawing and painting with a balance of a modern mindset. It gives off the feeling of movement with its bright and bold colors and shapes that jump right off the canvas. His art becomes a map of travels and experiences, a visual diary of the artist and his time and place in the continuous development of art. So thank you, Mark, for joining us as well. So those are just some brief, very brief overviews of what you guys do, but I will pass it off to Stephanie to introduce everyone else.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stephanie Silverman. I'm the class of 2000, and I had the great fortune to study with both Jody Hoffman and Terry Newitt as a student in the program. And it's really exciting to be back here on our 50th anniversary year, our 13th Fine Art Festival as the head of the department. And it is my great honor to be here with Terry and Jody. Terry recently retired last year after decades of time here at Archmere as a mentor, coach, art educator and colleague and friend to many. So it's great to have Terry on the call. And then Jody Hoffman actually came the same year I came in 1996. We were both freshmen together, and we have the same birthday. So lots of parallels. Anyway, it's really great to be back with my great friend Jody as well.
Weird.
It's great. And of course, I'm really excited to have two of our fantastic, accomplished students that are in our current students in our program, Jocelyn Zavala-Garcia and Camron Kaiser. So Jocelyn is a current junior. She has taken a variety of art electives at Archmere, including some with me and then also with Terry and our current art faculty. She's currently in our advanced placement drawing class. She won 7 Scholastic Art Awards across multiple categories in the 2021 Scholastic Art and Writing Competition. And most recently, Jocelyn was named the recipient of the Michael Curchio 2006 Emerging Artist Scholarship Award for her commitment to the study of art, her outstanding portfolio, and originally conceived sketchbook. Her artwork was also just selected for inclusion as part of a statewide exhibition at the Delaware Department of Education's Townsend Building for Youth Art Month in March. So welcome to Jocelyn. And then we also have Camron Kaiser, class of 2021, current senior. Camron has been studying ceramics, pottery, and sculpture, working very closely with Jody Hoffman intensively over the past couple of years. And Camron has additionally been studying and testing firing processes with Chesapeake Clay as part of his interdisciplinary AP capstone project. Camron was recognized with 4 gold keys and 3 silver keys in the ceramics and glass category of the 2021 Scholastic Art Awards competition this year. And additionally, he was recognized with the National Silver Medal for a sculpture, one of the top 1% of student submissions nationwide. So it's really great to have Camron and Jocelyn here, along with all of our incredibly accomplished alumni artists. And I think we can all agree that the quality of the art faculty is no small part of everyone's success here. So it's really an honor to be here with everybody. And I'm going to turn it over to our student panelists who have some questions for the alumni who are now living a creative career path. So Jocelyn and Camron, take it away.
All right, well, I can start with, I guess, a broad, maybe more lighthearted question for the panelists. What was one of your favorite memories of your time in the Archmere art program? And I guess we can start with maybe Amanda.
Sure, I'm happy to. I would say it's not a particular memory, but I would say overall, there was a feeling as soon as I'd walk through the door of the art building that I was home, and there was a sense of belonging. And I also think that was sort of the birthplace where I found my art tribe. I remember many days passed in the AP art building with best friends Mike Curchio and Gabe Dorita, and hollering at Jody as soon as I'd walk through the door. There was just the feeling of home and belonging, and that's probably the sweetest memory.
It's great.
Yeah, Mark.
I would sort of second that. I think that like as a young child, this is all I really wanted to do. There was no plan B or anything else. And so it just felt like it was the first step to get to where I wanted to get on, to get where I wanted to eventually be. And so there was a feeling of relief knowing that I was on the right path. Mm-hmm. And I think things were a little less structured when I was there, which was good for me, because the rest of the experience at Archmere was very structured. So it was nice to have the balance of those two things, just in terms of my personality. That was good.
Yeah. And Monique?
Hi. I don't know. That's an interesting question because I have so many wonderful memories of, oh my gosh, like Terry's watercolor class was awesome. I also remember the senior AP portfolio was magical. Everyone became my best friends there. Roman Hashuk, Christy Capano, Liz Pozzi. It definitely became my home away from home. And although it's funny when I think about Archmere, it was such a high quality education, but when I think of what made me enjoy it and feel good there was my time in the art department, because I guess that's where I belonged, and that's where we were nurtured by Terry and Jody, and really, really shown a way to kind of let our own lights shine. And that was really important at that age, because that age is tough sometimes. So I remember that being the highlight of my life then.
Yeah, I think Jody, there were so many times I came in after, I don't know, maybe a boy broke up with me or this girl was mean to me. And she was, if the art building was my home, she was my art mom that I would go to for problems. And
Making me cry.
You have a pile of tissues over here. This is really powerful.
I agree with all those things. I think as a current student, like what stands out to me is just like there's a unique sense of like camaraderie in the art building, and like beyond like art classes, just hanging out there in free periods and talking with my other art friends. I think that's what is special about Archmere's art program, and what has been like my favorite part over the last 4 years too.
Very special culture.
Yeah.
Yep.
Steph, I remember you sitting on the floor painting a door.
I know, and to think that Terry and Jody just let me, get that door from downstairs and paint on it. It was probably one of the original doors from the building. It's probably solid oak antique. Turned it into a big mosaic. I know. I mean,
and I had to drive that up to New York for the Nationals.
Yeah, and then you have Terry who is driving this door up in his minivan after school to New York City for me. I mean, that's like, talk about a dedicated teacher to make
somewhere on 56th Street. I don't know. I had to drop off the door. And then they said it was too big. The size was
amazing.
So another broader question that I have for you is, what gave you the confidence to pursue a creative path in college?
Good question. Are we keeping the same order?
Yeah, I say just chime in, just jump on in there. Go for it. Yeah, we can keep the same order.
That's a great question. Well, I've always believed that creative living and any artist can learn mastery on their own. Your own reasons to create are reason enough. However, that was not the case for me. I had tremendous support around me, from family to pursue a creative life. And then there was Jody and Terry that provided me with a lot of intimate feedback, praise and attention for my work. And because those teachers cared so much, there was a quality of attention given to me that really anchored a belief in myself that not only did I have a reason to create, but I had a responsibility to create. And that belief system at a pivotal age is so important, that you actually have something important to say and that it needs to be heard.
I think it's a lot about the for me, it was a lot about mapping the Archmere's rigors, like known for their academic rigors, but it was about taking the discipline of learning something and mapping it to creativity. Mm-hmm. So you were taking that same amount of time and care and energy and mapping it onto your creative pursuits. So it didn't seem like something irrelevant. It seemed completely relevant because it was in this context of everything else that you were learning. And so for me, that learning that discipline was really the thing that made me confident to pursue it as a lifelong pursuit. And aside from just sort of like all the meaning you derive from it and all that other stuff, I'm pretty pragmatic in the way I approach things. So having the discipline was really the most important thing for me.
Yeah, I would have to say what made me understand what it meant to be a serious artist and have a life dedicated to art. We saw it firsthand. I saw it firsthand in Terry. He had his studio there. He was making his art, and he was also teaching us also in a very disciplined way, in a very serious way. Although it felt very relaxing, the environment, he was challenging us to and nurturing us as young artists would, as we were young artists there. And to see, I remember the conversations about creating art and what it means to be an artist. And Terry was very open about that with us and having discussions that were really interesting about his art life. And we were witnessing him creating firsthand and finishing his series of paintings, him showing us what he was working on, what we were working on. He gave us a lot of respect as fellow artists as we were working on whatever our projects were. And I think, I don't know, it was life-changing. And, you know, I still think at this point, anything I ever needed to learn about art in terms of skill sets and the exercises to move on to create what I'm creating right now, I learned from Terry when I was 17 years old. Everything. I'll just put it at that.
I would have to echo that too. And I know that I'm not technically part of the panel, but I echo everything that was just said, because I think, you know, having teachers that are embodiments of, you know, they're modeling what it's like to be an artist and a creative person, I think is so key. And honestly, I felt like there was no other option for me. It's like Jody and Terry's confidence in me. It just made me feel like there was no other better way for me to go. I had their support and their, I remember them taking slides of my work, and, you know, even the fact that Terry made me feel that RISD was attainable for me. I think, you know, I may not have ever applied to RISD had Terry not pushed me to do that. And he had such conviction that I would get in. He was so sure. And I'm thinking, you know, gosh, you know, he really thinks that I can do this, you know? And so it really, it was really a big part of that. I think, so it's that idea, like that self-efficacy that you develop here in this program, I think is due in large part to, there's like this unwavering commitment and conviction that they, all the faculty believe everybody has creative capacity. And so, and same thing with art education. Terry and Jody were my models to pursue that as a career path. And, you know, knowing how life changing and transformative my experience was as a kid in an art program, something that I wanted to kind of carry forward as a professional, and hope to kind of emulate and do the same thing for you know, generations of my students to come. So they're amazing. And I don't know if you want to just open it.
I'm going to cry in a minute, but you know, it's just, when you're in high school, you're insecure, you're unaware, you're not sure, you know. I mean, we all experience that, you know. And then for me, as a mentor or teacher or whatever, to know that you are this good, you know, that Stephanie is this good, or Monique is this good, or, you know, I loved Amanda's quote about responsibility to create, you know, and we could say, you're in ninth grade, you're wet behind the ears, you're in 10th grade, you can get into residency, you can't, you know, you can be world class. And to see that as a human being, never mind a teacher, and students like all of you and many others, has just been so rewarding, you know. But I just think you're one. I always felt like I got to be one step ahead of Stephanie. I got to be one step ahead of Mark Smith, or, you know. A lot of times I wasn't, you know. It just, you know. So hey.
But it's such a thrill to be a teacher in that kind of environment where there's that creative synergy with the students, because they're so high achieving and there's such an intellectual component to it. And there's like that insatiable drive to learn more, do more, push it further. And I think that makes it so exciting.
I just look at Jocelyn right now, you know, I remember her as a freshman, whatever, you know, and you're not sure of your talent. You're not sure of anything, you know, you're a freshman in high school. And it's up to us as a little bit older and a little bit more mature to steer, and then to say, hey, you are great. You really are great, you know. I saw that in Amanda, sophomore year, she won a national gold for a portrait, you know, like, hey, I didn't teach that. She did it. I don't know, all that stuff. It's magical, but it sure was great being a part of that. There you go.
You're
All right.
still clicking that pen, Terry.
Is that
That's
Terry?
something you always did.
Yeah,
You're
the
still
kids
doing
that clicking and the change jingling in the
Yeah,
pocket.
yeah.
Yeah. I know you always hear him coming up the stairs with the change jingling.
It's
Camron.
nostalgic.
Oh, it is. I know. Some things don't ever change.
Yeah, all right. So I'm going to skip around a little bit, but I think this question makes sense now. So why do you think it is important for students to have the opportunity to study fine arts and design in high school? And like, what is the value of creative work and art making when you're just a kid in high school?
I'm happy to, I was going to say, I think that if you look at the landscape of what, there's very few places that still teach creativity in any form, right? And once you leave, which seems crazy to me, but also when you leave high school, college, and all that stuff, and you're in the working world, you realize the real power of creativity, and you realize that creativity drives innovation in business. Creativity drives all kinds of intellectual property that creates jobs. You know, the creative industries is larger than the hospitality industry in terms of revenue generated in a year. It's a huge industry. And I don't think it's hard to see that from a 14-year-old perspective. But once you're out in the world, you realize the real value of that, the real value of knowing design. And even if you strip all of that away, just the value of being able to appreciate art is I don't know how you could live life without an appreciation for art or literature or those things. Why else would we be here? You know, what are we going to leave behind if not for that? So yeah, I think it's a bigger question, you know. But yeah, I think it's insanely important, and everybody should be trained in creativity in some way. It's extremely valuable.
Yeah, I would second that. And, you know, art and design has such a critical function in shaping our world. Creative work is quite literally what makes our world operate. And, you know, the value is that it's feeding information into everything we do. So if you even look at it like a clock, and I think architect, scientist, designer Neri Oxman has a great example of her Krebs cycle of creativity. And the clock shows that it starts with science. Science as perception and nature. It's informational. It leads to knowledge, and knowledge feeds into engineering, which has to do with production and utility. And then, you know, from there, utilities from engineering are then applied to design. Design is also utilitarian, and its focus is production and culture, which leads to behavior. And then behavior is then perceived through art making. Art making is about culture and perception, leading us back to science, perception, and nature. So everything is an informational loop that each category, art, design, engineering, and science, need to be treated with the same agency and respect for that reason.
I'm having difficulty remembering the question because that's very interesting, Amanda. I like it. That's wonderful.
Deep.
I can't quite remember. Would you restate the question again? Because
Yeah,
I
of
had
course.
thought, but then I really liked where Amanda went with that.
Sometimes
Your way, didn't it?
It was good. Interesting.
Great.
Yeah, so the question is, why do you think it's important for students to have the chance to study fine arts and design in high school? And what's the value of creative work and art making?
So I'll just weigh in. For me, creative work and art making comes down to like one fundamental thing. And it's, for me, is communication. And I think like at this point in your lives and the point that we were all at in our lives is, like we had so much to communicate, and sometimes you don't have the words to say it in, or sometimes you don't know how to put your thoughts into like the context of every day with your peers, with your parents. And I think that creative pursuits and art pursuits in the school environment allow you like an open window for big communication that you're desperate for, hungry for, that sometimes, you know, as young people, you seek it out in music, you seek it out in your peer groups, in your friendships. And I think art provides that essential kind of communication and way of existing that I think young people are hungry for, and even adults are hungry for. So I think it's essential.
So I really like what I heard. I love everyone's responses. And I think what I take away from it is that, you know, there's not only, there's sort of the economic element, right? There's the potential for like a really successful career, right? And a contribution to like a global economy, because it is so valued and cross-disciplinary domains and provides so many different opportunities for career paths and just like enriching like the sort of global human experience. But then there's also the piece about it being something that's like a fundamental human need, or it's very personal in the sense that we all kind of extract a certain level of meaning, and it's about kind of exploring and communicating the human experience, you know, maybe both the subjective and the broader sort of universal. And so I don't know, I would say as an artist, I don't really ever feel like I ever had a choice, you know. It's just like, that's just my mode of communication, like what Monique is saying. And then also just like what Amanda and Mark have said too, is just that, you know, here at Archmere, I think because you have that academic rigor and all these different disciplines, and every day you have like these station stops where you explore all these different things and ideas, you can kind of create these interesting interdisciplinary, you know, amalgams of all that stuff, and all those ideas are kind of connected. I think like that visual of the clock Amanda was talking about, I really appreciate that visual, that metaphor for art not being something that's outside of life. It's something that is integrated into everything else, and it's a way of sense making.
Well, you made a good point. You can't live life on any other terms. You know, you could maybe think you could, but psychologically you can't. If you're really an artist, you know, whatever that means, visual artist. You know, I have a brilliant son who's a drummer, and I'm like, what? He's a drummer. He's a drummer. He can't live life without being a drummer. You know, it's like, you know what? He's doing good. But, you know, take away the drums, take away all that. He'd be, I don't know, dysfunctional, whatever. I mean, but you got to work your butt off to get to any kind of level, you know, whether it's what we do with painting or, you know, sculpture or whatever, but you can't live life any other way, psychologically, at least.
Great.
Poignant.
So another question I have for all of you is, as a practicing professional, what advice might you have to share with any of us or students who are seriously considering the pursuit of a creative major in college and beyond?
Never mind. Go ahead, Amanda.
No, go ahead, please.
I was just gonna say, like, I think this can work for any career and anything you want to do. Don't ever take no for an answer. Don't ever take no for an answer. If you want to do it, you do it. Don't wait for the people next to you to tell you you're good. If you're lucky enough that God gave you the Archmere Art Department to believe in you and nurture you, then that's all you need. When you go in the world and you hear that people like other things better than your work, or, you know, for me, it's always been, if I was painting figurative artwork, then abstract artwork was the trend. And oh, no, it wasn't going to work. And if I'm painting abstract things, then it would have to be figurative artwork was what they really wanted. Or if your colors are light, they want your colors to be dark, or that's what they're really. And I think you just have to have the tenacity in your spirit to just do your road and don't take no for an answer. And you might get a no the first few times, but I can guarantee you there's a yes waiting there if you just keep on going.
That's so true.
So true.
Yeah.
I have I think maybe a more specific piece of advice. It's a bit environmentally conscious. I think it's a very critical time for young creatives to recognize that the world is operating as we've designed it. And it took a creative process to design our world. And unfortunately, that design is currently failing us. And so my advice to young creatives, and perhaps even my plea, is that students seeking creative majors and creative living to first recognize that art and design's critical function is in shaping our physical world around us. And with this in mind, when it comes to choosing a major, to be courageous in asking what if questions, and to speculate everything. Because what if I were to collaborate, with my art with an engineer? What if I were to collaborate with my art with an architect? What if I were to collaborate with my art with a scientist? And, see where maybe in that exploratory process, in the answers that you find, let that be what helps you choose a major. But above all, I would say my piece of advice is to choose and create what creates a revolution in your heart, and then the rest will really take care of itself.
I would say look at going to the same way you looked at walking through the door at Archmere, the art department. It's a doorway. It's not the end. It's the beginning of something. And so you don't know where it's going to. There's no way you can know where it's going to take you. I had no idea where it was going to take me, and it took me in very surprising places. And you can always draw something from that creative. From the things that you learn as a creative, you can always apply those. You'd be surprised how across how many different fields you can apply your knowledge. Because if you strip away all of it, everything that you've learned, the thing sort of, to me, the commonality is that you become a problem solver. And eventually, as your skills mature, the material that you're using is irrelevant. So whether you're solving for a business solution or whether you're solving for a painting, having the courage to walk up to the unknown every day and address it, that's something that very few people can do. And being uncomfortable with the unknown is something that creatives are really good at, and that a lot of the world isn't good at. And so I think you can apply your skills in so many different ways, and it's best to think in the most broad terms rather than the most narrow terms when you think of it as a career.
I love that point. Also because I think authentic confidence is something that to live a creative path, it's required, because your creativity will be met with adversity again and again and again as you grow older, and you need to have that. You're gonna need it.
For sure.
All right, so I guess kind of coming back to Archmere a little bit here. So Archmere obviously has a pretty successful track of both like students and alum. So I'd love to hear a little bit about, like, from your personal experience in the program, what do you think makes Archmere's art program so special and successful? I know we kind of touched on that a little bit throughout, but yeah.
What just popped in my mind. I remember, I don't know what formal it was, a formal dance. We were in our prom dresses or these gowns or whatever. And I don't know why, it was still light out. So I must have just been arriving, and it was evening time. And Jody was covered in clay, and she had her little girls around, and she was like living her art life, was guiding us kids and having her creative exploration going on there, covered in clay. The kids are kind of playing inside, playing in the courtyard where the sculpture area was, and the ceramics area. And you know, just like we saw, like Terry there making his artwork, and like it's really like, it's one thing is for sure, it's not a job for these people, it's a vocational calling.
Mm.
So when you have people mentoring you that are not, hey, I'm out of there at 2:40, I'm home and I'm done here, it's a very different situation. It's a rich situation. And then now I think, Jody, you had like kids that are my age now, and you were like, I mean, it must have been after dinner. You were there where it was beautiful. I mean, what an example. You know, what an example.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd follow on with that by saying that it was like a classic apprenticeship. You know, like in the most old-fashioned sense when I was there. Partially because it wasn't codified yet, because it was early days, but also because that's just the way Terry teaches. You know, and so I don't know that you could get that amount of time with somebody with that subject matter expertise and I don't know that I don't, you know, the amount that I learned in 4 years there, as Monique said previously, you know, when I went to Pratt, it was all review. You know, I was free to create because I already understood all the fundamentals, and maybe I didn't practice them well at that point, but at least I understood them. And I think so it gave me the range to pursue my own personal sort of directives because I had a fundamental knowledge that allowed me to do that. I'm very grateful for that. And I think that type of learning is coming back in vogue now. You know, you see all these apprenticeships for all different kinds of careers because they realize that that's a great way for humans to transfer knowledge amongst each other.
Mm. Yeah, and I may add to that, you know, the art program has incredible facilities offering things like glass blowing and 3D printing and ceramics and things unheard of in your average, you know, high school art class. And however, that comes with something that's even less commonplace, which is the care and the quality of attention given to these students by the teachers. And I can recall very vividly leaving the art program my senior year toward RISD, not only feeling encouraged, but I felt creatively courageous. And I know we touched on that before, but that is a result from the quality of attention that's given to the students by the faculty. And I can say for sure that there is no one else, very specifically, other than my parents, Terry and Jody, that could have built that kind of environment for me that fueled that courage.
I think too, for me as a student, you know, what I even recognized as a kid was that, you know, we were learning fundamental skills like what Mark was talking about, and problem solving and transferable skills, and building that kind of creative, courageous quality that Amanda's speaking to, you know, under the umbrella of having, you know, authentic artists like Monique mentioned. But you know, there was also this sort of openness to multiplicity of outcomes. So even if we were all doing the same project with the same entry point, there was sort of this magic mixture of high expectations, high rigor, very targeted specific skills, and like a thoughtful structure for the assignment design, but that allowed for students to sort of solve these problems individually. So you never would see the same outcome for any class project. Everything always felt to me like the student's voice was being transmitted, and it was being honored and encouraged and kind of drawn forth with the respect for that unique individuality. And so for me, it's always been, you know, I love the variety of outcome. You know, I loved being surrounded by all the different ideas emerging and all the multiplicity of possibilities that, you know, were encouraged and fostered. So, you know, it was a really rich, vibrant program as it is now. And I think there's something about that that's transmitted over time, like culturally, and passed down, that, you know, that's just kind of part of that's the signature quality, I think, of the program. And even if you look at what all of you are doing, what everyone's doing, I think all these different divergent outcomes. There's so many different outcomes with what we do with that creative capacity. So again, I think it's all about the individual, you know, encouraging the individual, and that individual attention is so key.
Freedom.
Freedom, yes.
It's called freedom. Freedom to do that. What if I did, you know, some sort of collaboration with, you know,
Right. Scientist or
Scientist.
like Drew, kids who are
Yeah.
blending different disciplines. You know, we have students who are like right up pushing the edge of these emerging technologies, doing so many innovative, interesting things. Camron studying, pulling in things from science, right? And Jocelyn, you know, addressing, you know, large political issues through her artwork. Like whatever is important to you is really, you know, you can do it. You can explore those
Yeah.
things and ask those questions. And
Chesapeake Bay clay. Or, you know, flying drones
Right.
around.
to get really great aerial shots, or,
Yeah.
or maybe even designing your own 3D printed negative spool,
Right.
or whatever he's doing, right? So many things.
You
Great,
guys are crazy.
amazing.
Crazy good.
Well, I always thought it was important to like get into each kid's kitchen or understand the difference between Monique Rollins and Roman Hashik, for instance, or whatever. You know, like that takes a lot of work, or a lot of failure too. You know, psychologically, you know, trying to get into each kid's where they are, you know, all the time. And I think a lot of teaching is just here's your lesson, everyone plug into it. But no, I think as an art teacher, or me personally as an art teacher, what makes this person different than that person, you know, and that person, you know.
Yeah, Terry would.
All this competitive stuff. Mark Smith was, I don't know. It's just like understanding where everybody is, personally, you know, and that's great. That's why you go into teaching, to be personable. I'd probably get fired now. I hug people, and you know, you know, oh well.
Differentiated instruction. So I have visions of Terry walking around with his piles of folders and papers and being able to pull
God,
back.
everyone thought I was like a total wreck mess, whatever.
No, but you would be able
No,
to
you weren't.
images of, you know, H.R. Geiger for this kid, or Cezanne
Yeah,
for this
right.
kid. You know you would almost like know how to light the fire for each student, depending on whatever, you know, you somehow were able to make that connection between what you knew about the student and what they would respond to. And like, you just put a little kindling there, and then it would set them off. And then, you know, that's how you get that differentiated instruction that we were talking about.
Well, so, I mean, I feel so humbled by what Mark said, and Monique, and whatever, that they went on to college and like knew everything. I don't believe that in a second, but if that's even close to the truth, it is because of that point that I thought I found this artist that could speak to Amanda or speak to Monique. Mark, and that, you know, that took a lot of work, I guess, but it wasn't work. It was love, joy, you know.
And so it's really I just wanted to note that that's a remarkable thing to have in teachers, and it's not commonplace, and it's something to really be cherished too, if you do have someone in your life that can fuel you that way and take that extra attention to you, and you know, specificity to your work to give feedback.
Well, I'm just going to chime in quickly and say that I'm the only non-artist here, and you guys are all making me wish that I could go back to my freshman year and take more art classes. This has just been like so refreshing and nice to get alumni and current students and faculty together to talk about your time in the Manor and at Archmere. So I think we can probably wrap up. I don't want to cut it short if anybody has anything else they want to add. I know I can tell that Stephanie and Jody are in the Manor right now, and it looks beautiful after some summer, renovations. So if anybody, once we are able to get back on campus, we will certainly welcome all of our alumni back to the Manor to come check it out. But for now, we will just be joining, these virtual Zoom sessions. I hope we can do more like this. This has been fun. So I'm seeing this in our future, Steph. I think this might.
No, I think it's one of these wonderful side effects. It's a good thing. I mean, we would never have had this conversation had we not had this technology in this moment. So I know Zoom isn't everybody's favorite thing, but look, we have someone from Seattle, Pennsylvania, Italy. We're here in Claymont, right? Terry's down the road at home, New York, right? So I think that's kind of incredible and remarkable. And it's just a wonderful reminder that everybody's still out there and thriving and successful, and everybody can kind of trace their success back to our beloved Manor here. So anyway, it's been really great to chat with everybody. And Jocelyn and Camron, you did a great job. So this is sort of their day off. So they're doing this for us, and we're so excited that they were here and they took some time to talk with all of us. And I hope Jocelyn and Camron, I hope you got something out of this too, because we obviously think you're great, creative students. We encourage you to keep going with your passion. So
yeah, it was awesome to hear everything, and it was a lot of things that were said. I know, it's my senior year now, so I've kind of been through it over the last 4 years, and I feel like I feel all the same things. So it was really cool to hear that being echoed.
Cameron, you were great, man. I just and you're emotional. I could see that, which is wonderful, And Ainsley, thanks a lot. I don't know if we're staying on at all, following this for a little bit. I'd love to talk to the alumni and stuff here, but Cameron, I just proud of you, and Jocelyn and Stephanie, thanks, and Jody and the alums. I'm hoping we could talk a little bit for 5 minutes, but
Yeah.
Cameron, good luck. What's going on with you, Cameron? You're probably like a rocket scientist somewhere.
Well, right now I'm just trying to figure out college stuff. Where to go and finalizing what I want to study, but still just kind of doing what I'm interested in. We'll see what happens from there.
Well, whatever. You've just been an amazing producer of high school art, in the Archmere program, and inspiration.
Thank you.
I was just sitting here thinking, gosh, time flies so quickly. When I'm sitting next to Steph and Jody and Terry, hopefully we can all sit together and be back. Cameron, I wonder what you're going to have done, Jocelyn, what you're going to have done. It's going to be mind blowing. Can you imagine that? Because that's right around the corner for you guys, and you're already on such a road.
Yeah.
So it's exciting. It's really exciting.
I might add that
How mind blown we've been watching all of you guys, grow up and, become the artists that you are. And I'm just so proud of you. I think it's
well, yeah, that's it. Just seeing, Monique as a freshman or Mark Smith as a freshman or whatever. And it's just, gosh, how did they get there? I walk into, how did they get to where they got, and then hopefully it was partly your motivation, but it was all their drive and will, and not ever wanting to accept setbacks or embracing their successes. I mean, that's what you got to do with art. It's just like I always told my kids, you're going to do music, you're gonna do music, if you're gonna do it, you gotta be 1,000, 2,000%. You can't just dabble. You have to be wholehearted and because and you got to make it a lifelong journey. You can't just have a couple good years and then just quit or whatever. I mean, it's got to be longevity, and that includes setbacks, and especially in painting or art or music or whatever. So so anyway, it's great seeing everybody. And if we have to leave, let's leave. But Ainsley, thanks a lot for organizing this, or Stephanie, or whoever did.
Of course. I'm so happy you could join us, Terry.
You too. Terry,
I'm happy to even talk to people. I just
wanted to make one more remark.
serious. It's just been like one year of like, pandemic stuff, and we've all experienced it. But anyway, I'm glad I could be here and see Amanda and everybody.
It's so nice to see everyone. I wanted to make one more remark to Jocelyn and Camron that, these teachers never forget how much they've done for you, because they will never forget you. So that's very important to remember, because 2 years ago when it's hard not to choke up because it means a lot to me, but 2 years when I had my MoMA show, both Terry and Jody came, and that was amazing. So yeah, don't forget them.
Yeah, that was like, we were so honored for that.
We had to end with tears. Sorry.
You're hanging right above Stella McCartney.
Yep.
But it means so much later in life to look back and be able to trace your path, your creative path, and point to the people that made such a difference in your life. And so I just wanted to end on that note.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Jody. Thank you, all of our amazing alumni panelists and students. This has been really great, really uplifting. Does anybody have any final remarks, Ainsley, before we close out here?
No, other than just thank you all for joining us. This has been such a pleasure. Like I said, I'm not an artist. I'm probably the farthest thing from it, but I've thoroughly enjoyed listening. I know Archmere, and I know the Archmere community. I know that feeling of being home. That's Archmere. So in a nutshell. So thank you all for joining us, and hopefully we can do something like this soon.